Former Public Enterprises Minister Lynne Brown says Eskom was already in a mess when she took over. She says she's been unfairly vilified. Brown is testifying before the state capture inquiry today. She was implicated in wrongdoing by witnesses including former Eskom Chair Zola Tsotsi and former Deputy Finance Minister Mcebisi Jonas, among others. Michael Appel is following that story for us. He joins us now live. So, Mike, Lynne Brown was asked about an Eskom board that was seen as sympathetic towards the Guptas and Salim Essa.
Yes, this is a board that was constituted pretty quickly after she was appointed as Minister of Public Enterprises in 2014. So by early 2015, a new board would be constituted, and it is the evidence of many witnesses who've appeared before the state capture inquiry that this board was known as a Gupta board, even to the board itself. They referred to themselves as, everybody knows this is a Gupta board. We've heard evidence like that before. It's something that she strongly disputes. But then the issue is, and it was put to her by the evidence leader, why did they appear so sympathetic then towards some of the companies like Tegeta that would take over Optimum Coal Mine, and towards
Yeah, we've lost Mike's audio. Let's take a listen to that sound clip from earlier.
I did ask them why they had what happened around Tegeta. As far as I'm concerned, it was a direct sale from Glencore, selling Optimum Mine to the Guptas. So that was a direct sale. I asked the executives about the prepayment because they were in I called them up and I asked the executives about the prepayment, and I was told that prepayments it's something that they did in order to secure coal. And they've done it before, and they've done it often before.
All right, we've re-established that audio connection with Michael Appel. So speaking of Salim Essa, was he ever the former minister's advisor?
So where this question comes from is because several people have testified, including Suzanne Daniels, the former head of Eskom's legal and compliance, not too long ago, that Matsela Koko called her to Melrose Arch, where she was taken into a room where Matsela Koko was, as well as Salim Essa. He introduced himself as Minister Lynne Brown's advisor. So he says that there were going to be certain certain executives were going to be suspended. This was on the 10th of March 2015, if memory serves me correctly, where she's told, how do we go about suspending these executives? 3 of them will be, 4 people will be suspended, 1 will come back. One of those would be Matsela Koko, who does come back from suspension and is then eventually becomes the acting chief executive of Eskom. So, of course, this is all on Suzanne Daniels' version, supported by another witness. So the question was put to her, was he ever your advisor? Here's her response.
If somebody came to tell me that Mr. Essa was my advisor, I would have done exactly what I did to other people who also played themselves off as my advisor. I write to the companies, I tell them these people are not my advisors, and then I go, my office would go and lay a charge against them at the intelligence officers.
So we've previously heard evidence that former President Jacob Zuma was interfering in the work of the board. Did we get any more information on that today?
So on the 26th of February 2015, after this new board is constituted, I think one of the first meetings they were going to hold was on the 26th of February. And it was the acting DG of Public Enterprises who has testified at the Commission, who said that Minister Lynne Brown was out of the country at the time. So Then President Jacob Zuma calls her and tells her to call Mr. Zolotsotsi, who was the chairperson of the Eskom board, and tell him that they are not going to hold their board meeting as scheduled. Now, a board is independent, at least it's supposed to be. It has its own legislation that governs it to make sure that it is outside of the reach of any executive or political influence. So to have a sitting head of state instructing a board of an SOE when it can sit, when it can't sit, and one's guessing he would be dictating potentially what would be on the agenda, as certain evidence points to later. He tried to call the chairperson of that board and tell him, you need to suspend certain individuals. We need to have an independent, at least seemingly independent inquiry to get rid of certain people. If you connect the dots here, Shahan, if you get rid of certain people, it allows certain people to take over the organization who could potentially, if you look at the evidence, favor a certain family. So she was asked if she ever received this phone call or she knew anything about it. And if she did, and the president did make that phone call, how would she have felt about it? This was her response.
I wasn't pleased with it because, firstly, I don't think that any of us, unless there's a good reason, and when I say us, I mean anyone in the executive, should not be cancelling and interfering in board meetings. I did not express to Ms. Maholo my view. Because I didn't think it was right to express my view of my principle to my official.
Yeah.
So I did not express it at all. But my view is that we shouldn't be cancelling anyone's meetings, especially board meetings. It then becomes an issue of interference.